Did you know for Weird Science, John Hughes wrote the script in only 2 days? 2. According to Bill Paxton, Chet's line, "How about a nice greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray?" was based on something his father John Paxton used to say to him when Bill was hungover from a night of drinking. 3. When Bill Paxton is speaking to Kelly LeBrock while interrogating everyone over what had happened the previous night, in the background, Suzanne Snyder and Anthony Michael Haller struggling to stay in character, but it is clear they are laughing. John Hughes chose to use this take in the completed film. 4. John Hughes wasn't happy during filming of this movie because it interfered with another project he cared about much more and resulted in his working a punishing schedule for months, but he agreed to direct it because Universal gave him a deal where he could also direct the more valued project if he started this one first. The other film, The Breakfast Club. 5. Anthony Michael Hall was set to reprise his role as Rusty Griswold in National Lampoon's European Vacation when John Hughes suddenly offered him the lead in Weird Science, so he backed out of one John Hughes movie to star in another. Did you know that for Back to the Future, the rights to the film and its sequels are owned by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale? In a 2015 interview, Zemeckis maintained that no reboot or remake of the film would be authorized during his or Gale's lifetime. 2. Writers Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis actually received a fan letter from John DeLorean after the film's release, thanking them for immortalizing his car. 3. The script was rejected 44 times before it was finally greenlit. 4. Crispin Glover claimed to have seen the film only once, shortly after its release. In contrast, Christopher Lloyd stated that when he stumbles across a Back to the Future film, while channel surfing, he often sits and watches it. 5. Ronald Reagan was amused by Doc Brown's disbelief that an actor like him could become president, so much so that he had the projectionist stop and replay the scene. He also seemed to enjoy it so much that he even made a direct reference of the film in his 1986 State of the Union address. As they said in the film Back to the Future, "Where we're going, we don't need roads." 6. After the film's release, body kits were made for DeLoreans to make them look like the time machine. Did you know that for Forrest Gump, prior to filming, Paramount Pictures had cut the original budget by about $10 million and were trying to force director Robert Zemeckis to cut out scenes they felt were unnecessary, like the shrimp boat or the Vietnam scenes. Zemeckis fought the studio hard to keep those scenes, and Paramount executive Michelle Manning was even sent to the set to supervise filming and make sure the movie stayed within budget. Zemeckis eventually gave up part of his and Tom Hanks's salary to keep most of the scenes, and eventually agreed to cut out Forrest's running sequence. However, Zemeckis then simply ignored the studio's wishes, even receiving support from Manning. The running scenes were shot in secrecy without the studio's knowledge, and Tom Hanks's younger brother, Jim Hanks, doubled for him in many of them. According to Jim, Tom had other doubles, but they couldn't do the run, referring to Forrest's geeky, stiff stride. That's a stupid Hanks thing. The studio eventually found out, but when they saw the raw footage, they relented. Only the scene at Monument Valley was still missing, because the money had run out, and since the studio refused to pay for it, Hanks and Zemeckis did it themselves. Did you know for 13 going on 30? Jennifer Garner was very happy with the studio's choice of Krista B. Allen to play the young Jenna Rink. She felt Allen really embodied her at that age, and later got the producers of Ghosts of Girlfriends Past to cast Allen in a similar role. 2. Mark Ruffalo's first scene was the Thriller dance sequence. He was terrified of doing the scene, but Jennifer Garner's enthusiasm was very infectious. Andy Serkis had to rehearse the scene separately from everybody else, because he was in London at the time. 3. If the cast wasn't sure once things were funny enough, they would ask Judy Greer, because they all felt she was the funniest person on the set. Although Lucy Wyman is played as a very pretty teenager, Greer remarked on the Blu-ray release that she was more like a geek at that age. 4. Brie Larson is one of the 6 chicks in the scenes at school and Jenna's birthday party. She also has a line in the first scene. Later in the film, a yearbook photo shows that she is no longer a part of the group, replaced by Jennifer Garner's character as a teen. 5. Less than 20 years later, Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo would reunite in The Adam Project, where they played Ryan Reynolds' parents. Did you know that for The Matrix, all scenes that take place within the Matrix have a green tint, as if watching them through a computer monitor? Scenes in the real world have a blue tint. Blue was also used at a minimum within the Matrix, since the directors thought blue was more of a real-world color, despite, ironically, blue being often the least occurring color in nature. The fight scene between Morpheus and Neo, which is neither in the real world nor in the Matrix, is tinted yellow. 2. Lawrence Fishburne stated that once he read the script, he did not understand why other people found it confusing. However, he had a doubt if the movie would ever be made, because it was so smart. 3. Shot almost entirely in Sydney, Australia, the location scouts found it very difficult to find rundown American-looking locations. Many of the urban decay locations had to be created from scratch. 4. Carrie Ann Moss said that after the film's release, she could not go out wearing sunglasses as she was instantly recognized. 5. For Agent Smith's voice, Hugo Weaving emulated a 1950s newsreader. Lawrence Fishburne compared him to Walter Cronkite. Did you know for Fargo, Joel Cohen had Frances McDormand and John Carroll Lynch conceive a backstory for their characters to get the feel of them? They decided that Norm and Marge met while working on the police force, and when they were married, they had to choose which one had to quit. Since Marge was a better officer, Norm quit and took up painting. 2. William H. Macy begged the directors for the role of Jerry Lundegaard. He did 2 readings for the part and became convinced he was the best man for the role. When the Coens, Joel Cohen and Ethan Cohen, didn't get back to him, he flew to New York, where they were starting production, and said, "I'm very, very worried that you are going to screw up this movie by giving this role to somebody else. It's my role, and I'll shoot your dogs if you don't give it to me." He was joking, of course. 3. William H. Macy stated in an interview that despite evidence to the contrary, he did hardly any ad-libbing at all. Most of his characters' stuttering mannerisms were written in the script exactly the way he does them in the film. 4. The role of Carl Showalter was written specifically for Steve Buscemi. Did you know that for Interstellar, to create the wormhole and black hole, Dr. Kip Thorne collaborated with visual effects supervisor Paul J. Franklin and his team at Double Negative? Thorne provided pages of deeply sourced theoretical equations to the team, who then created new CGI software programs based on these equations to create accurate computer simulations of these phenomena. Some individual frames took up to 100 hours to render, and ultimately the whole CGI program reached 800 terabytes of data. The resulting visual effects provided Thorne with new insight into the effects of gravitational lensing and accretion disks surrounding black holes, and led to him writing 2 scientific papers, one for the astrophysics community and one for the computer graphics community. 2. Early in pre-production, Dr. Kip Thorne laid down 2 guidelines to strictly follow. Nothing would violate established physical laws, and that all the wild speculations would spring from science and not from the creative mind of a screenwriter. Sir Christopher Nolan accepted these terms, as long as they did not get in the way of the making of the movie. That did not prevent clashes, though. At one point, Thorne spent 2 weeks talking Nolan out of an idea about traveling faster than light. Did you know for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Tom Felton forgot his line when Draco sees Harry disguised as Goyle, so he improvised, "I didn't know you could read." 2. It was Jason Isaacs' idea for Lucius Malfoy to have long, blonde hair, as well as carry a walking stick inside of which he would conceal his wand. He grew attached to the stick, and once tried to take it off set before he was caught. 3. Daniel Radcliffe was initially only offered $181,500 for this movie. The actor's union equity stepped in and negotiated new terms, which increased his salary to roughly $3 million. 4. Just like his character, Rupert Grint has such a severe case of arachnophobia that he has still not watched the entire scene where Ron and Harry are in Aragog's Hollow. In that scene, Ron's frightened look and uncomfortable squirming are not acting, but Grint's genuine reaction to simply the thought of spiders. 5. Hugh Grant was originally cast as Gilderoy Lockhart, but was forced to withdraw at the last moment because of scheduling conflicts with 2 weeks' notice. 6. Christian Coulson landed the role of Tom Riddle, even though he was 23 and exceeded the 15 to 17 age group set for auditions.